Welcome to Native Yoga Toddcast. So happy you are here. My goal with this channel is to bring inspirational speakers to the mic in the field of yoga, massage, bodywork, and beyond. Follow us at Native Yoga and check us out at nativeyogacenter.com. All right, let's begin. Welcome to Native Yoga Toddcast. Today my guest is Todd Norian. He's an internationally acclaimed yoga teacher, and he's the founder of Ashaya Yoga. Visit him on his website, ashayayoga.com, and pick up a copy of his book, Tantra Yoga, Journey to Unbreakable Wholeness, a memoir. Fasten your seatbelts. Let's begin. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to bring Todd Norian to the podcast. Todd is the author of a book called Tantra Yoga, Journey to Unbreakable Wholeness, a memoir. And Todd, I've been seeing you over the years, and I've heard about you. I've been seeing posts over the years, and it's really a pleasure and an honor to have this opportunity to meet and speak with you. Can you tell me, how is your day going? What sort of revelations have you had today?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. And it's a delight to be here. And I'm just enjoying getting to know you and the conversation. And I am currently doing an Ayurvedic cleanse. I'm in day 4 and I'm starting to feel really, really good.
Nice.
So I feel lighter in my body. I feel open. I had an incredibly beautiful and deep sadhana yoga practice this morning. And regularly I do some inversions like handstand and forearm balance and all that. And today I kicked up in handstand. It was just like light as a feather. So I really like that. And it just tells me like, okay, I'm aligned with like my body, mind, and heart are all lined up. I don't feel much stress at all. I'm not resisting life. I'm just flowing with the present moment and trying to change with the changes,
Oh, yeah. How many years have you been engaged in yoga practice in relation to your mind recognizing there's a word called yoga, there's a thing called yoga?
That's a great question, just how you phrased it. Well, I started yoga in 1980. So I was going to school in South Miami at Coral Gables, University of Miami.
Nice.
I switched there from University of Michigan. So I was a music major in classical piano performance and kind of flunked out of that. And because I loved jazz and I found the jazz school, that was great, which Miami had one then. I think there's still pretty high ranked school for jazz. And right across the street from the university was a yoga studio. And I had just seen a friend in the summer break before that. He was back from college. I was back from college. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he was radiant, glowing. I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I do yoga." And he said, I'm doing it at the Kripalu Center. I said, "Kripalu, what?" And he said, "Yeah, if it's in Pennsylvania." That's before they moved to their current location in Stockbridge, Mass. "Yeah, if you ever, come through, just call me up and you can come and visit me." So he planted the seed of yoga. I didn't even know what it was. And then I transferred down to Miami. And sure enough, when I saw that there was a yoga class, I went. And, I was in so much pain. Like, I'm so stiff. It was then. I still, parts are stiff. And so it was like after this torturous class, we did Shavasana, which is, of course, like at the end of the class. And tears just exploded out of me. And I was going, what is going on here? But the environment was right. They had incense. They dimmed the lights. They were playing. I'll never forget the music because I'm, was a music major. I was very sensitive to vibration. And it was this piece from Paul Horn called Inside the Taj Mahal, which is recorded in India, is just solo flute inside this huge, temple. And it had all the overtones, like, I don't know if your audience is going to understand what that is, but all the jazz harmonies come from the root sound of a tone, and all these subtler vibrations that exist in the sequence of what makes the sound a sound were there. And I'm listening to this and going, this is like the intersection of jazz, music, beauty, and relaxation. And it was the first time ever that I relaxed. And I came into this space of total acceptance. Like I wasn't trying to achieve. I wasn't trying to become anyone. In the music field, even now, but I think back then, especially, it was so cutthroat, even though, it's so relaxing to play music. No, it was like dog eat dog, competition, getting into the best bands and getting chosen to, travel around with these big jazz orchestras. They would come and pick the university students out. That's how Maynard Ferguson picked his band, and Buddy Rich and all these older, jazz bands. When they were touring, they would come to the schools and get these guys that do it for free. But anyway, it was just a culmination for me. And it was the first time I actually felt the presence of beingness, just existence itself. It was so ecstatic.
Nice.
And that was it.
That was it. I can imagine if that kind of first experience, I can see why you're still practicing 45 years later down the track. Yeah.
Years. And then from there, I did finally visit my friend. I was driving from Miami up to Rochester to go to the Eastman School of Music because they had a jazz program in the summer. And as I was coming back, I realized I'm going right through Pennsylvania. So I called my friend and I went to a 10-day retreat and stayed for 13 years.
Whoa. Wait. Well, tell me about that. What do you mean what kind of retreat center was it that you could all of a sudden stay for 13 years? What, are we talking meditation, yoga?
Yeah. Well, it was Kripalu Center back when it was really legitimately an ashram with guru at the head, and they had practices. It was an intentional community. And they offered programs and services, to the public while living a healthy lifestyle and learning the yoga practices.
Whoa.
And they would
so you were with Amrit Desai then?
Yes.
And during the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing. Well, I wrote my book. That's why I had to write this book. And it wasn't just the Kripalu thing where I was there from the inception of it, well, after the inception, but early on anyway, until it blew up. And then I practiced Anusara Yoga with John Friend, who I still absolutely love and respect. But the same kind of founder scandal happened, and that community blew up. So 2 communities blew up. The betrayal that I felt, the sadness, the loss, the grief. But if it wasn't for those 2 experiences, I would not have said, okay, that's it. I'm going to create my own method. You'll see in the logo in the back is Ashaya, which means abode of the heart. So it's like I needed sort of to get to that lowest level of suffering in a way to finally rise up and overcome my shyness, my unworthiness. I talk all about in my book how I had a fairly decent childhood, but there was so much shame involved in it. And a part of my journey, like I say, journey to unbreakable wholeness, is I was broken with a feeling of I'm just not enough. I'm not good enough. I flunked out of classical piano performance. I didn't get into the #1 jazz band when I was there. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I played gigs and I did the sort of commercial, music, which all the jazz artists were doing there to make a living in Miami, playing bar mitzvahs, weddings, and it was a crazy world. But it's like, no, something opened up in me that said, I have something to offer and I'm going to do it. And I just taught recently about the fire of tapping into our potential. Like, have you tapped into your potential yet? And when I asked myself that, I said, no, I don't think I have, but it took the fire to actually embrace the hurdles that I had growing up. And I talk about from losing 2 communities and all that, to be able to come back into my heart and say, no, I have this gift, I have this to offer, and then do it. It takes fire to change our lives, and to keep walking in the direction of our heart. And I feel like that's the journey for me. And it's joyous and terrifying at the same time.
Yes. Wow. Great summary. And I mean, should we keep going? I mean, that was probably enough right there for all of us to be like, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, one thing that I have to just bring to the point right away is that prior to our conversation, you made a great little aside when I emailed you. You said, yeah, from one Todd to another. And I just kind of laughed when I read it. And I thought it is funny that, we have the same name. So prior to coming in here, I just thought, all right, so this idea of the urmi, like the cosmic consciousness that we hear about in, say, Tantra Yoga. And if, what if there was another version of me out there somewhere, on some level? And then as we start getting into understanding that we all are that same person in some way, shape, or form, just coming into it through like this individuated consciousness sort of thing. And then, so I've also been through 2 community scandals, first with Bikram and then with Ashtanga, staying with Bikram in LA and with Patabi Joyce in Mysore, and having the same realization that you're talking about of like the hurt. Can I even move forward here? And what do I have to move forward with if the examples I've been just shown were not of a harmonious type of experience? And so I love hearing that you kind of pulled yourself up and said, I can do this. And I can represent from my heart what is true to me. And I'm also guessing, I get the feeling from you that there's a certain level of ethics that you're wanting to ride with. Am I?
Yeah. I learned intrinsically just from being on the other end of the pain of the dysfunction, at the top. And it's the dysfunction that hurt, but it's also the double life, the lying out front to create an image of greatness while living just out of integrity behind. Like, I don't know what kind of personality can live in 2 states at the same time. I definitely cannot, So it is maintaining ethics, but there's so much in this, because in Tantra, boundaries are bendable and boundaries expand. Barriers, when you're just so rigid and there's the barrier, they preclude growth. Like, there's no growth in a barrier. So the Tantra is always going to help us set the boundaries, but then really look in and discern the nuances of context and situation and all that. So it's just a very interesting idea about ethics. Yes, and there are degrees of nuance that might make someone make a different decision. So like, I understand, but being at the effect of that, felt such a deep sense of betrayal. Now, some people feel betrayed and they close their heart forever and they live a life of resentment, and that never ends well. It's just like eats away at us from the inside. And I think, I say to my students, raise your hand if you haven't been betrayed.
Uh-huh.
Nobody over 50 raises their hands, okay? Uh-huh. All right. I mean, what I'm saying is the younger ones, like, they'll raise their hand. I haven't been betrayed yet. I said, okay, well, just wait. How old are you? 21? Okay, just wait. And I don't mean that as a negative forecast, but I'm just saying, I think betrayal is what the heart must go through to mature and to be on its journey more authentically. So here's the difference. I shifted betrayal from an impasse to a rite of passage. And I think having this context, and this is partly what I write in my book, it's partly the Tantra that I teach, everything in life is for our awakening. And when I can take 100% responsibility for myself and say and really mean those words, everything in life is for my awakening, then how was that betrayal for me, for my awakening? It takes the blame off them. I'm not condoning poor actions and people that abuse other people. I do know that hurt people hurt people. I do know that there's an intensity of shame that I can't even imagine of what's going on for them, either from their childhood or past lives or whatever. We're all just trying to do the very best we can, with good intentions. But how can we embrace the hurdles that come our way? And instead of being knocked down, with this attitude, obstacles become opportunities. Stumbling blocks become stepping stones. And what you think of as a setback is really a setup for a comeback. And this is how I've been able to maintain my joy. And it's not a superficial joy. It's joy that embraces the grief and the sadness of the loss. It is the embrace of light and shadow, the full spectrum. And this is that unity consciousness, we're one. But in Tantra, it's a unity, it's non-dual that is so united, it embraces diversity. It's so full, it includes lack. It's so perfect, it includes imperfection. So another way to define sort of like this not two, this non-dual, is the word Advaita, which means not two. And it's the word used to describe Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, meaning the non-dual path of the Vedas. And in the tantric interpretation of that word Advaita, they shift it from Advaita to Advaya. And Advaya means never without duality.
I see it.
It's a unity that has to embrace the polarities of life, the ups and downs, the full spectrum, instead of what we see as difference is Maya, is an illusion. You're making a mistake. We really are one and we're not two. And Tantra is saying, well, we agree with the non-duality of everything, but difference is real. It's not a mistake. It's everything in material reality is the expression of the divine's desire to know itself. So Shakti, Shiva can't even be perceived without Shakti. Shiva is Shakti's face. And the only way we can experience sort of the vastness of consciousness, which is really what Shiva represents, is through her. You can't get to him except going through her. And it's just a whole metaphor that says that our humanity is our divinity. And this is from Christopher Wallace. This is as God as it gets. But how do we actually live that? So it's not a concept. And here's how. Tantra, the revolution in Tantra, is about connection. And it's about turning towards ourself, towards life, towards the world. Right now in the world, like politics, economy, so many people just want to turn away and, stick our heads in the dirt. But the Tantra saying, no, you can't do that. You need to walk towards it. And, we think of to be successful, success is a win-lose game, basically. But in Tantra, success is defined as vulnerability. Can you be vulnerable? And connection. And that's the revolution. That's what's different. And the vulnerability comes back to a level of acceptance that really is infused with surrender. What is surrender? Is acceptance of what is as it is. That's a big leap for a lot of people.
It's a big leap, isn't it? But at the same time, as I listen to you, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. Like it just seems like staring me in the face, more and more so lately. Where did my skeptical mind, lately I've been really trying to embody this idea of open-minded skepticism. I keep an open mind, but I also want to investigate, and I want to test and see. Like, I don't want to just take it that you told me. I want to see if that's true for me, you know? And so I guess when I saw that one of your first chapters, before I say what the name of the first chapter is, and I won't use any names here, just to be kind to everybody, I went to a Tantra workshop, and I had this initial idea that it was going to be like some weird sex thing, you know, because that was the only idea that came into my mind from other people. Was like, that was the first response when I would use the word or heard the word. It was like, it's associated with this. So then I was like, what am I walking into? Is this going to be something that I don't feel comfortable in? And how will I respond when I get there and I'm not comfortable? And all the stuff that we do in our heads when we're trying to learn something new, maybe. And so I had barriers. You know, I wasn't, but I was curious. But I also had already put up this is how I'm gonna be. I already knew how I was gonna be when I, you know, and so it's been a journey. I guess want to ask you to now where I'm like going, wow, there's so much wisdom in this lineages, or in this viewpoint, or so I guess what I would like to ask you is, for the person that is listening with their core their skeptical mind, which I think is very important to have. If I didn't have my skeptical mind, I don't know I'd be where I am right now. So I think it's important. But how do you talk to the skeptic beyond what you just said to help assuage any fear and nervousness about embarking on an idea of potential realization that I am the divine? I am a manifestation of divine consciousness.
Well, I think a doorway that most everyone is looking for is the idea that you're already whole and complete just as you are inside. And that what we need to do is bring our awareness into the present moment with acceptance. And so much of the time we're harsh on ourselves. We're the harsh critic of ourselves. And most of the time we're either resisting life or we're existing 3 feet out in front of ourselves, which produces a lot of anxiety. I'm afraid of what's coming. I'm afraid of what's around the corner. I'm afraid of what I cannot see, you know? Or we're living in a state of regret about something we said or did in the past. We're carrying a heavy weight behind us that pulls us. And, you know, from my perspective, that's not a good use of past, present, and future, you know, but we do it. So the Tantra I teach is, how do you find the place in the middle? How do you come back to the place in the present moment? And it's just through understanding that regret is subtly our way of changing the unchangeable. You know, well, if I can regret it enough, maybe it will change. And that, underneath all of that, is really the source of all suffering, is wanting what we don't have or not wanting what we have. Those two things, this longing for something more to complete me because I'm lacking, or what I have, I really don't like what I have, so I want to get out of it. So we're either running towards something or running away from something. And remember, it's this, and I'm saying Tantra is this. Tantra is connection. So, you know, we have discomfort with discomfort. You know, nobody likes discomfort. Then I'll say, okay, come into pigeon pose. Like in a way, the yogi, if we're doing asana, we are training ourselves to bring comfort to our discomfort on a surface level, physical level. But I do that also emotionally. And I think this is how people can understand the Tantra, is through our body, through our emotions, you know, because nobody wants to suffer. Nobody wants to be in pain. We are all naturally longing for freedom from suffering. That's what brought me to yoga class. I didn't really even know that that's what I was looking for. But ultimately, that was it. I think a lot of people come to yoga when they've suffered a lot, they don't have anything left to do. It's like, well, I've tried everything else. Let me try this yoga. So, I don't jump to, we're all gods and goddesses in disguise. Hafiz, the great mystic poet, says we're all gods and goddesses in drag. And I really like that. But it's too big of a leap. So I try to just invite people into a tantra as a weaving. That tantra means to loom, which is to connect, to weave together, to integrate body, mind, and heart. But tantra also means to expand. It's itself and its opposite. We pull in order to expand. We create the boundary in order to expand the boundary. And then, if I see I'm teaching and I see like they're nodding their head a lot, like they're with me, then I might jump to something like this, like, the universe chose to limit itself in you, as you, in order to see itself. And then people go, what does that even mean? So,
I know, it's good though. That's good. Yeah.
You haven't seen your own face with your eyes. Like, your eyes have never seen your face. You can't. Your eyes have only seen the reflection of you. You look in a mirror, you see yourself. It's not you, it's your reflection. Or we have friends, they reflect back to us who we are. I'm in a relationship now, but I'm not married. But when I was married, I would say, if you really want to see yourself, just get married. Like, just have a committed relationship and stay there. You'll see, I promise, you'll see more about yourself than you ever cared to know. And now I'm back in a beautiful relationship now, and I welcome the reflection, like, show me, and we do that for each other. It's so beautiful. So, yeah. And when we take sort of the universe, which think of it as an infinite domain, you take a piece of the infinite from the infinite, that piece is still infinite. So we are the condensed version. Earth is sky condensed. We are the limited version of the unlimited universal vastness of all that is. And in order to see itself, it has to make itself small. It has to separate itself, and this is really good, because abandonment is one of my issues from childhood, I remember when I was 2, like, my parents handing me off to a babysitter so they'd go out to dinner. Just like a very simple, this happens all the time in families. I was crying my eyes out. I thought, no, I don't want to let you both go. And I recently had a revelation meditation. I was clinging onto a rope. It was like the climbing ropes from gym when we were little. I was clinging so tightly. And I entered from my adult self. I entered into the meditation, and I saw this younger, lesser evolved part of me. And I said, what are you clinging to? And instantly it was, I don't want to lose my parents, because I'll die. I'll feel lonely. But it was like I was holding on for my life. And I said, well, they may have left you, but I'll never leave you. I'm here. Look at me. And this little boy, me, part of myself, looked up into my eyes, and our eyes locked. And I felt him, myself, release the grip of the attachment to getting love in a certain way. And I just turned and I embraced, and I saw in my meditation, I was embraced myself. And it was so beautiful. It's like a part of myself that was sort of leaking power with this fear of abandonment. And it would show up in my life in different ways, but now knowing that I'm never going to leave myself, it gives me more stability, more security, more confidence,
Wow. Whoa, that's good. That was good. That was good. Great.
That's what I mean by Tantra, the revolution, is to connect and to know all parts of ourselves so that we can embrace them all. Every part of ourselves has a seat at the table. And that's another tantric teaching. Everything belongs. Just a matter of where you place it. Dirt inside the house is dirt. Dirt outside the house is soil. It's supposed to be outside. We don't eat from the compost pile, but there are critters that are eating from the compost pile. We put compost on the garden. We eat from the garden, So Tantra is, where do you place things? Because everything belongs. So, I say there's 3 Tantric questions, and I try to live by these questions. Number 1, what does your heart most deeply desire? Most people don't know. You ask them well, what do you desire? What do you want? I don't know. What does your heart most deeply desire? What is your purpose? What is your gift? We all have something. 2, what is the value of that for you? Because not everything we desire is as valuable as everything else. So we have to discern, what is your heart most deeply desire? That's of the heart. We have to look into the heart. What value is it? We have to discern. We have to use our mind. Make a pro-con list. When there's big decisions, we have to know what's, if I say yes to this, what are the ramifications of that? If I say no, what am I left with? And then choose, Then the third thing is, what are you prepared to do about it? And that's body. That's heart, mind, body. It just encompasses it all. And as long as we're living from that deepest desire of our heart, we're moving in the direction of our heart, happiness follows. But I mean real happiness. I call it unreasonable happiness. Happiness for no reason at all. And that's why Nataraja is dancing. You look at the statue behind me. That's called Shiva Nataraja, Lord of the Cosmic Dance. He's vibrating. He's so ecstatically joyous, And he's dancing the eternal rhythms of the universe into existence, surrounded by a circle of protection, of grace. It's the Agni Mandala, which is the circle of fire. It's fierce. Fire is purifying and terrifying at the same time. So we live in the infinite potential. All possibilities are held. And he's dancing, standing on the imp of forgetfulness, it's called the Apasmara Purusha, away from remembering. And that imp is our ego. The whole dance is predicated on the dance floor, which is our back body. Here, it's our universal side of the self, that the ego, it's not what's in the way. Ego's not a problem. Ego in Tantra is the gift of our embodiment, how to be your individual self, how to be your unique. I'm just unique. I'm weird. I've got OCD probably, but the thing is, that's me, and I've embraced me. And the eyes of the ego, and this is important, are looking up at the lifted foot of grace. That the ego is permitted to live. But when we focus our ego energy in service to a bigger energy, greatness is knowing that you're greater than yourself. And what happens is, like in the Hindu myths and everything, the demons have the same power as the devas, as the gods. The only problem is the demons want to sort of use this ecstatic joy for themselves. It's very narcissistic. And they, use cruelty for cruelty's sake anyway. Where the devas or the gods are using the same kind of power to promote good, to promote equality, to, uplift the experience of humanity. So.
Wow. Man, you can, I don't know if I should interject. I think you could just keep going, and I'm enjoying listening. It's good, man. I can feel you are in the philosophy, you're living it. It's not just a conceptual idea at this point. It's like you're putting it into the practice.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I really hope that you're enjoying this episode, and I just wanted to take a moment to announce a course that I'm really excited to release. It's a free course, and it's called 8 in 8, Learn 8 Limb Yoga in 8 Days. My goal is to help coach you along in the Ashtanga Yoga practice in a way where we take just the sun salutations, the fundamental asanas, and the final breathing poses, break it down with some philosophy videos as well, explaining the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga in a very easy to use, friendly course that is totally free. Click the link below, check it out. Let me know what you think. All right, let's get back to the episode.
And Todd,
yeah.
I have to just say, yes, I'm living it. And guess what? I'm a student forever.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a recovering perfectionist. So when I hear the teaching, you are perfectly imperfect, just as you are, it kind of gives me permission to be myself without dimming it down or without needing to change anything about myself, or because I'm not pressuring myself, I feel free to change myself. Instead of shaming myself, it really is how to embrace what's there. And I'm perfect today. I'm going to be even more perfect tomorrow. Perfection is not the end of the game. Enlightenment, there's not a goal line that once you cross over it, you're enlightened. If you sit like Buddha did for 40 days, 40 nights, you'll get enlightened too. It's a concept of, there's arriving and journeying at the same time. But there's no final arrival where now you're done. Because that would really be a place to go. I want to go there. So that's, taught in the path of the renunciate, where it's really the rejection of the world, rejection of desires, rejection of our humanity, because that's what's in the way. The problem is you. Me, So then we want to eliminate and extinguish the flame. Nirvana means the extinguishing of the light. We want to extinguish it. In Tantra, it's kind of the same thing in Tantra, but instead of emptiness, the other side of that is fullness. And what I've seen and learned from the Tantric scholars that I've studied with, they're just two sides of the coin. So it's all good. Even those paths of renunciation, which is like a one-way ticket up and out, they want to get off the karmic wheel because life is suffering. We never want to come back to this. So let's do good now, gain our good karma points so we don't have to come back. And Tantra is saying, well, souls tend to reincarnate, so that's just natural. Instead of getting off the wave, we want to learn how to surf the wave. It's yeah.
Yeah.
This is the revolution, a connection in. It's not up and out. It's in and down. And classically, in the tantric traditions, the renunciate path was considered a higher path. And the householder tradition, which is you and me, householder, you go through family, you go through the stages, you pay your taxes, you pay your bills. In the Tantra, that's not an inferior path. When I was living at Kripalu, I was being groomed to become a monk, which is to follow the Swami. Kripalu was a Swami. He renounced the world. That was the whole trajectory was renunciation. And just before I took my vows, I got married.
Yes.
I did a whole spin. It's no. And while I was there at the ashram, it's so paradoxical. Okay, this is how mind numbing all this is.
Oh my gosh.
The guru was married, had 3 kids. Okay. He was having affairs with all the women, okay, and not telling anyone. And I didn't know. I'm so naive, I didn't know until it came out. And then there were families at the ashram, and I have a lot of my friends who were families, but it was always taught to us that the renunciate path was higher. And the family path of marriage and householder, was an inferior path. And for me, because I grew up with this feeling of unworthiness and shame, I took it to the spiritual practice. Said, oh, that's not high enough. I want the highest. So it was really attractive for me to do the renunciate path. But now, after having done both, it's like the real work is relationship. Like the real work is here. The real work is in the world. So there's such a difference. And I'll say one more thing, and then I'm going to take a breath. The word samsara in the classical traditions means the disease of worldliness. That samsara is, like all life is like samsaric in a way. But when you break down the etymology of the word, sam means bounded, okay? And sara is the spirit. So when you define it like that, samsara means to be held back, to be bound, to be limited by the world. So if that's my definition, I'm going to want to get up and out because I want to go towards freedom. Everyone does, The tantric definition of samsara, they define the sam, part of that word, as to be nurtured by, to be supported by, to be uplifted by, upheld by, to be held by the world. Not held back, to be held by the world. So this whole idea of samsara takes a completely different, it's an empowerment to be in the world because the universe has our back. And life is always happening to us. Life is always happening for us, not to us, in a way. So it's the embrace. Again, the revolution is to be in connection, to move toward life. And freedom expresses herself through boundary. Knowing that, we create healthy self-boundaries to experience freedom.
Well said. Well said. I have heard before that Tantra it's so interesting because like what you said about the renunciate path, I've went through the same or similar type of thought processes of my first introduction when I started reading was, wow, the way to go is to be a monk and renounce, and which I think is so kind of comical of the juxtaposition that you said that the Swami / guru himself was a married man with multiple children having multiple affairs. And so, that's just such an interesting thing. And I can see, and personally, I've had to you try to wrap your mind around this and you hear one thing out of one side and then you see something coming out the other and you're like, whoa. And so I had a similar trajectory of like what you're saying, where we want to strive toward the best, highest one, because what else am I going to do, man? I don't want to go for the cheaper version. I'm going to go for the bigger one. But then, there's this, and I remember when I first started, then after that first Tantra experience I had, I met somebody that was really influenced through the Tantric teachings from Vajrayana Buddhist practices. And he started saying, here, read this book and read that book. And and I remember him saying, this one is the one that is considered like the highest Tantra. Like you won't get it until you're ready to get it, but you might as well just go for it anyway, because you're probably going to get it. So I think how many people... Now I've read about how, say, 1,000 years ago in India, that there was a flourishing tantric community, and then I learned that there was a flourishing tantric community in Indonesia and Bali, and in multiple places around the world. There was these, and I guess I even read recently that Bhutan potentially might be one of the last big tantric civilizations, so to speak. And so the thought of a community of people, like a larger community, like a city of people that are all orientating themselves toward this view. And what would it be like to be born into that as opposed to, I can see like what you said in relation to the birth that we took here in the US and the way the cultural dynamic of what we've been inundated with since we were children to then come into or to find Tantra. It's like, wow, this is so different. This is so different. This is like the total opposite of everything I was taught when I was growing up in Catholic school or going to church. So, and wow, this is really cool. This makes perfect sense. How did I not see this? How come it took me so long to come across this? This is unbelievable. So I guess I sometimes, and I don't even know if it's a worthy thing to investigate, but I wonder if I will be born again in a place where it is a fully thriving tantric community. And what would that be like? You know, would I, because I grew up in that, be attracted more to the renunciate path because it was something different? Or would I just fully embrace that and then live a classically tantrically orientated existence of just feeling the bliss of everyday existence? So I don't even know if I want you or need you to answer that, but I guess I just wanted to give you a chance to get your breath, and I'll fill in a little bit of space for you. Or did it bring up any ideas for you when I went that direction?
Yeah. Well, there's things that we cannot control. That's part of what the terror is. There's a celebration of life, absolutely, and then there's a terror of not being in control. And the embrace of both of those things at the same time is really what the path is. And so, we can, reflect and contemplate if we're going to be reborn again and where. And I think in general, and this is what I've heard from my tantric teachers, is that souls are evolving. So it's not the case that they actually come back into lesser beings and all that. But I think there's probably a structure and some organizational thing that's in the subtle planes that I have no idea about. So I don't really even want to go there. But what I do know is how to achieve deeper vitality in health, emotional agility, and a spiritual heart that's open, where we know ourselves, and we're aware when we put the shield up, and we're aware what it takes to lower the shield. We're aware how to open to a bigger energy as needed, and to understand the importance of all that. And so that's what I try to do, like to lay out in my book. Tantra is really not anything different than just living a healthy, well-adjusted life where you are meaning to do well and we do make mistakes. So then how do you cover mistakes? Like, I think relationship is either you're creating a new one, you're repairing what's there, or you're letting it go. In each of those phases, like how do we embrace that? How do we go through those stages more gracefully, and certainly all the stages of life, how are we integrating and processing our childhood? And do we even look? Most people don't even know. If I say, well, describe to me the nature of your lesser evolved wounded self. They go, what? I don't know. And I did a whole course with Douglas Brooks is the tantric scholar I studied with. Well, him and Paul Muller Ortega from Blue Throat Yoga. There are other scholars as well. So I've studied with many of them. But Douglas will say, I just lost the thread in that. What was I talking about just before that?
Well, you mentioned about in relationship, we're either creating, maintaining, or dissolving, and so I don't know if that's the part that you were going toward, or I'm with you. I know. Good luck. I mean, do you remember what show you watched on Netflix last night? Heck no, man. I'm kidding. I'm joking. No, I know that's the beauty of this is I think we can just like try to grasp at it. And but I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think well, you were kind of going down the track too of recognizing your teachers. And I think that's a really interesting thing to do. You also mentioned that talking about children, our childhood, and what was our wounded or what part of, I'll see if I can say it the way you said it. You said, I like the way you said it. You said, can you look at the side of your childhood that did experience the challenge and what relationship are you in with that part of your childhood?
Exactly. And that reminds me of what I was wanting to say,
Cool.
which was the course that I taught with Douglas Brooks. We do various courses over the year, but this one was the spiritual warrior, stand in the gift of your wound. And it's the whole idea that in Tantra, if we're not willing to open, you have to open to the wound first, which is terrifying. I mean, it's so scary. We need courage to lower the shield. The shield like takes the place of courage. Oh, I can't protect myself, so let me just close everything down so I'll be safe. Courage to lower the shield, to be vulnerable. So first we have to open to the wound. And once we do, then how do we stand in the wound to get the gift of the wound? Because everything in life is for our awakening. What is the gift? And that's what I mean by having a deep connection to ourselves. I said like emotional agility. I've studied a lot about psychology and emotions, and there's an incredible author called Dr. Susan David, Harvard professor. Her book is Emotional Agility, and she talks about how do we move through our life with a little more freedom. She's teaching the Tantra, and certainly we have to let go of resistance. So we need to learn how to bring comfort to our discomfort. So how not to resist when something hurts. And we come to realize that the raw emotion, like if we have an intense anger or an intense grief, the raw emotion only lasts approximately 90 seconds. After that, it's the story we tell ourselves about that emotion that's what we live. And the way I say it in my book is we are meaning-making machines. And it's not so much the trauma. We all have traumas with small t, with a capital T. We all have these wounds, greater or smaller. It's not that we have wounds. It's the meaning we assign to them that we live in, So Susan David talks about we need to bring the 3 C's to our emotions. The first is curiosity. When we have a feeling deep inside, can we just be curious about it? Curiosity can only happen when there's no judgment. Like what is being curious? Well, I haven't made a decision yet. I'm not judging it. It's openness. Compassion is the second one. To have compassion is, we can only give compassion to anyone else to the extent that we can sit in our own darkness. That's what I'm talking about, like these spiritual thresholds or spiritual powers to be able to, can you sit with your discomfort? That's compassion. And then courage. And that is, to then do something about it. And we learn more positive ways of expressing or discharging the emotions. Processing is one way, but meditation is another. Journal writing is another. I do vigorous exercise that just helps me to reset, something I'm worried about, and it brings insight. Of course, I use my yoga practice all the time to evolve my insight about something. And then if we can just be open to learn from our emotions, the emotions turn out to be our body's guidance system. So
Amazing.
Either we bottle them, we don't want to deal with them, so we put it in a bottle, cork it, put it on the shelf, And it's like, you know what happens when you pickle something, right?
Yeah.
It turns more and more sour. And that's what happens. If you don't deal with it, it festers inside, it becomes an irritant inside. And if we don't bottle it, we tend to brood, meaning we recycle it over and over again, perseverating over and over. So that's what I mean. Like Tantra it embraces the yoga of the body, the yoga of the mind, the yoga of the emotions, and of course the yoga of the heart, which is why Ashaya really means the abode, the safe space inside, the place where you put your deepest secret treasures. There's like an altar, and we put the crystal, of our essence on the altar of the heart. So.
Oh man, I hear you. That is so cool. I think the work that you're alluding to in relation to healing childhood wounds is so deep and powerful. In this view, is there, and you made mention of, say, the renunciate idea of like, let me off this wild ship. The whole idea is this ship is a little wild. I want off, and I'm not gonna I know I can't just get off. I got to do the work to eventually get off, and then not have to come back. And then, from what I'm understanding within the tantric view, I'm willing to ride this ship as long as it takes, and maybe I don't even need to be on this ship anymore, but I think I want to stay on the ship because there's so much glory, so much joy in seeing other people on the ship too. And how can I be of service to the other people on the ship that are struggling on the journey? And the satisfaction that comes from, how do I get through? How can I get through? And then obviously there's this idea of like, okay, I'm still doing my work because, boy, I'm still got a lot of work to do. Like that. I feel it. I see it. I'm aware of it. And my wife lets me know about it very regularly. So, but at the same time, I guess, oh man, for me personally, one of the big revelations has been, I really wanted off the ship. I wanted to do anything to get off the ship, and I couldn't see the reason why I'm on the ship. What's the purpose of this whole ride? And I'm over it. And then with digging down into this practice, I'm starting to see there's a reason why I'm on this ship. And this ship is really amazing. I haven't even begun to see all there is to see on this ship. I've only been in this one little cabin stuck, and there's a board over the window. I mean, I want to get that board off. I want to look through that portal now. But even within this room, there was so much stuff I wasn't even looking at. And so it's like, I'm not in a hurry to get the portal open, but wow, just the thought that the portal could open. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm ready, but I'm a little nervous. I got to be honest with you. I understand what you're saying about the fear part, like of what does that mean? What will that mean? Well, it's a little, but at the same time, I feel like all the messages that are coming are saying, don't be scared. Just go, man. Just go for it. It's going to be good.
You are in the Tantric Revolution. To embrace uncertainty, to embrace the celebration of life along with the terror, and that's the journey. And why are we here? Well, why is Nataraja dancing the eternal rhythms of the world into existence? For the play of it. You mentioned it. For the fun of it, for the joy of it. He's doing it for the play, and I also believe that here, first of all, you have to go through it to get to it. And you said, I want to go through it. That's the tantric way. And we're here to turn pain into beauty. We're here to transform the experiences that we're having of negativity into positivity. Or to transform, to use whatever comes to us as a means to go higher. So I wouldn't want to invite all the negativity to come to me like, hey, come get me. It's not like that.
Yeah.
A little bit at a time.
Yeah. When you feel some serious pain, you're like, yeah, I don't need. So then I guess what I'm very curious about then is Kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
Because I first heard, be careful what you wish for. And I think that's kind of what maybe potentially you were alluding to. If you get too much too fast, if you see a little too much, it might be intense and it could be a wild ride. And then when you are having moments of the realization of this, like I love the very first, when you just started in terms of the idea of boundaries, but then opening, you're setting the boundary, but then you're also wanting to expand the boundary. So I think you danced at that first component of the world of judgment that comes up when people start, thinking about, well, look what they did and how they didn't conduct themselves well and blah, blah, blah. So I guess on the Kundalini side, and wow, I really want that experience. That sounds cool. I keep reading about this thing they all talk about. It's wrapped around 3.5 times at the base, and eventually it comes up and it pierces all the chakras and wild energy. And maybe I'll see or feel something that's going to be better than what I'm already feeling and seeing right now. And then this whoa, holy cow, I feel like I got to breathe. Whew, this energy is intense, man. I just got to breathe. What do I do with this? And so I'm starting to think maybe that is the Kundalini, but what is your take on please tell me.
It's a big topic. From the tantric perspective, everybody's Kundalini is already awakened. And it's just a matter of degrees. Kundalini is what's breathing you. It's the name of a goddess. Kundala means coiled. And as the myth goes, it's coiled in the Muladhara chakra, the base chakra. And when it starts to awaken, meaning your spiritual perception opens. The veils start to thin. We're starting to see the truth of the reality of what is as it is. This is the definition of surrender, like I said earlier. And when that happens, supposedly this Kundalini, which is depicted as a snake or serpent, rises up and pierces the first 3 chakras, which is kind of cool in a way. There's so much symbolism of what those are considered our worldly chakras, but they really give us our foundation, our feeling of connection and safety, which is the first chakra, our feeling of desire and intense longing for something more, like the itch of desire, and to recognize that there's not just you, there's other people, so that we experience this kind of relationship in a way. And then it's like a polarity, like the second chakra is more of a polarity. When it moves up to the 6th chakra, which is depicted by 2 petals, that polarity becomes integrated as a unity. It's like this is where we see a unity that includes duality. But here at the 2nd chakra, there's good and bad, right and wrong. There's this polarity thing going on. And then the 3rd chakra it penetrates the self. So it's like the 3rd chakra is the ego, but it's also our individuality. And when the energy moves up there, we just awaken to our capacity to be ourselves. You let the sunshine of your personality expand, and it's all okay. And the Shakti or the Kundalini will rise all the way up and pierce all the lotuses. So I had a very intense Kundalini opening experience, which is what facilitated me after the 10-day course, staying for 13 years, because everything opened and I discovered brand new values, and I was able to let go of my past, even let go of my family, to an extent symbolized by taking a new name and all these things, and I always say, when you're in the path of your heart, be careful, because you're going to disappoint people, not intentionally, But then I'll say, well, if you're not regularly disappointing others, who might you be regularly disappointing? And it comes back to start finding yourself, live your life. Yoga gives us permission to be self-ish, to understand, to fill our own tank. And then from there, of course, we want to give. But can we give from the overflow so we don't overgive and deplete ourselves? And nor do we want to live under our parents' supervision forever or living their dreams. My dad was a musician. Was I trying to fulfill his dream of a musician? He was upset when I was invited to go back to do a free fellowship for my master's degree program. And I turned down my professors because I said, I found this yoga thing. I'm going to go live in a yoga ashram. And I certainly disappointed my parents. But I was able to go back. And once they saw after a few years, I was so healthy, so happy, then they started doing yoga. Like I pulled them along with me because I was so strong, so sure, every cell of my body. And that was from the Kundalini awakening, where every cell is pointing in the direction you want to go. And there's absolutely no resistance. Nor did I have much social awareness, as you'll see, because I went into a very deep yogic state, went up to the mountain behind the ashram in Pennsylvania, took off all my clothes because I needed to be natural man, had no idea what I was doing, and buck naked, walked back to the celibate ashram, and there I was, natural yogi. And luckily the administrator saw me and swooped me into the Brothers Barn. At that time, they called it the Brothers Barns. What are you doing? And he saw that I was in another reality. I was like God intoxicated. And so I would say, yes, that was an intense experience. It took me some time to get down, and I won't give it away, but there's a whole chapter of that in my book that really, as I reflected back later after that experience, I could discern that whole time I felt protected by grace, even though it was just this bizarre thing that I went through. And after that, I was a changed person. So this is our potential. Kundalini can come as an insight that changes your life. It can come as, a depression or a grief, a loss that was so deep, you come through that and suddenly you're a brand new person, So, or it can come and mess with the mind. And sometimes, there's a fine line between, a Kundalini experience and a psychotic event, a psychotic episode. And people can read my book and they'll say, oh yeah, he had a psychotic episode. I could have told myself that story, but the meaning I chose to make of that was, however psychotic it was, there was a spiritual component to it, and it shifted the entire rest of my life. 45 years later, I'm like, hopefully I like to say I'm helping people and helping others who have sometimes those confusing experiences. So the practices that I teach now help to regulate the opening of our consciousness. You can call it Kundalini awakening or whatever, so that it's gradually. And in Tantra, we don't want a full-blown experience of it. Look at Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. He said, Krishna, show me your true form. He said, no, you're going to go away.
You're going to have a Hendrix
10,
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. In 11, Krishna says, okay, I will show you. He opens his mouth and Arjuna wets his dhoti. He could not handle it. He pooped his pants and it blew him away. He said, Krishna, close your mouth. I like you much better as a mortal friend. And Tantra is saying, hey, we don't want enlightenment all at once, if that's even a thing. We want to unwrap the gift of life slowly, to savor each awakening moment that we have, on this journey of the heart. And that's what makes it so sacred, so special, and
the slow unwrapping. And I, because you had a big unwrapping and have learned from it. And I love that you've been able to integrate it to the point of, recognizing it. And now from the angle of teaching, to be able to help others unwrap slowly, slowly, gently.
Let's the whole method that I teach, like in the asana portion, let's say, it's composed of the 5 elements. And one of the elements I focus on is earth, because we are embodied beings. There are many yoga systems. It's all sky. It's all air and sky. Just float up away, do yoga to relax. Even down to the anatomical, physiological embodiment of my method, I have people hug in with the longing for freedom. And when they hug in, their muscles contract, which is what muscles are designed to do, and it feeds the bones. They get healthier, they get more stable. Aches and pains go away because suddenly the fascia is coming closer to the bone, which is what needs to happen. Like if you injure yourself, you wrap it to get the fascia and the prana and the blood and all that to hug more, to engage more in that area. So my method really, it's subtle. I don't usually tell people this, but we are the embodiment of the 5 elements, and the Ashaya method is a step-by-step method to assist that embodiment. So right now I'm teaching in my membership on the 5 elements, and so we did sky consciousness the other day, and sky is like, do you give yourself space to make mistakes? So sky is space, or are you heart? Do you contract down on yourself? Do you feel a sense of freedom in your life? Are you tapping into your fullest potential? Earth is, do you feel grounded, steady, and stable? And so when we use our muscles in that way to pull in, it helps us be able to expand out more fully. And probably is not going to make a lot of sense, but that's how the elements are formed. That's how a star shines its light. The light isn't coming out of the star. The light is happening from nuclear fusion in the core of the star. The star is connecting. The star is doing a tantra. It's illuming itself in order to expand. And
you are making sense, Todd. I understand why you would say that, because I know what it's like when you start coming into this field. It's like it's amazing. And so I understand what you're saying, why you would say it probably isn't even making sense, like what I'm saying right now, but it is making sense. It's making perfect sense. So I think you're doing, I don't know, I just really appreciate, first of all, I know we're kind of traveling into the world of, like time. I'm on a time schedule. And I looked at the clock and I'm like, whoa, this is good. We got a whole hour and 15 minutes and I haven't even once looked at the clock yet. And so I guess in the attempt to, maybe I don't even need to attempt to close anything. What's the point of closing a conversation? Let's keep the conversation open. I mean, I think, tell me.
I have something to say that might feel like some kind of a completion that has to do with the stars and this idea of contraction. So the universe in its vastness is already expanded. It seeks to contract to know itself. So it becomes us. But in our finiteness, our longing to expand and experience our universal nature, our experience that is unbounded, ecstatic freedom, we are also wanting to expand, from our limited state into the universe. So there's this exchange. The universe becomes us. We wake up in our individuality and we want to expand to become her. And it's this symbiotic beauty that we are both ourselves and each other. We are both universe and individual together, embodied. We are earth and sky, and earth and sky come together in the heart. And this life on earth is a journey of the heart.
Oh, beautiful. Amazing. I want to recommend all listeners. Yeah, I'm going to recommend you to get a copy of Todd's book. All the links for everything that we discussed, I'll try to include, and then go to Todd's website. And it's obviously really easy, Todd, to study with you because we live in this era where we're in the era where it's possible now. I mean, gosh, I mean, I can't even tell you how grateful I am for computers and technology to be evolving on this level to where I feel like it's rapidly facilitating growth. It's unbelievable. And I used to always look at these things like, oh, stay away. That's going to be the thing that ruins humanity. No, I was looking at it from the wrong angle. It's actually helping. And so anywho, without going too crazy down that track, but I am so grateful, Todd, man. I knew this was going to be amazing. And I can't wait to meet you in person. I definitely want to, I can't wait to read your book. Thank you for sharing it with me. I'll go on Amazon and purchase a copy. You were kind enough to give me one, and I want to support you. So I really appreciate, you sharing it with me. That was generous. And well, hopefully let's do this again because, or something, let's collaborate together again. If it's a possibility, I would love to. And I really value everything you said. I'm just so grateful for all the time and dedication. Think of all the different things you could have decided to do otherwise. You could have like, I don't know, if you decided to become something different, but you're sticking with yoga and teaching. And that's a big deal. 45 years. I mean, it's hard sometimes, and you think should I have done something else? How in the world did I choose this? And I think, no, I think this is the path, man. This is the stuff to stay on right here. So I'm grateful for you being so dedicated.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much. It is a sacred journey that we're all on. And I appreciate just your open-heartedness and your receptivity and all that you're putting forward to expose your people and expose the world with these teachings. And I really appreciate it. And I feel such a great heart connection with you. And we're the Todd men, so like both same name and similar vibrations. So I wish you all the best, most success. And I do hope we can connect again real soon.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Native Yoga Toddcast is produced by myself. The theme music is dreamed up by Bryce Allen. If you like this show, let me know. If there's room for improvement, I want to hear that too. We are curious to know what you think and what you want more of, what I can improve. And if you have ideas for future guests or topics, please send us your thoughts to info@Native Yoga Center. You can find us at nativeyogacenter.com. And hey, if you did like this episode, share it with your friends, rate it and review, and join us next time.